So as it kept progressing for you, I know there was a big impactful moment in there, that kind of started you on that path of change. What was that like? What led up to that, and then kind of what was that like for you in that situation you found yourself in?
Yeah, I mean, I just kept progressively getting in more trouble. There were a couple more instances where, shots were fired, and I started to become a little more comfortable around that, like you said, that type of chaos. So I end up, it was 2006, I had just turned 21, and I end up getting into a pretty big altercation with my sister's ex-boyfriend. And we ran into each other. Things kind of got out of control. His cousin came outside, his other friend. We tried to leave the scene, and we couldn't. And so it got to the point where I had jumped out of the car, feeling my life was threatened, and the life of my sister. And I started firing, and I actually struck him 2 times. Um, I was completely unaware of where he was hit. I fired 3 shots and hit him twice, but it was dark. It was like 7, 8 at night, and it was on Christmas Eve at that. So once that happened, my I knew my whole world was going to change. So I pushed my sister into the car, and told her we got to get out of here right now. She didn't even see it happen. It happened so quick. And so we kind of floored it out of there. People were screaming. They had already called the police because there was some commotion leading into it that I knew, the people in the neighborhood heard and probably had already called just off of the noise. So we sped out of there. The cops were already coming down the street. I got like a mile and some change down the road, and I told her to pull over because I saw a sewage drain, the kind that's like open on the curb, the kind that goes right down. There's not like a lid there. So I started taking the gun apart, and I hopped out, and I told her, "Look, you're never going to see me again." And I gave her a hug. I threw the gun into the sewage drain, and I knew at that point, like, what am I going to do? I was on the street on Christmas Eve. Thankfully, I knew where someone lived on that street. And as I started to walk down, I saw more units, flying down the street with their lights on, and I had nowhere to go. So at that point, I just told myself, there's no way that these guys are going to know that I'm the one that did this. So instead of running, I just walked to the edge of the sidewalk and took my phone out. It was like a flip phone at the time, like a Motorola Razr, so old. And I put it up to my ear, and I just started like smiling and trying to like act like I was laughing and joking, and it was enough. Like, they sped right past me. And so I started sprinting down the street once they turned the corner, and I just basically knocked on this friend that I knew. I knocked on their door.